Chapter 5. Milo stood in front of a dusty shelf. Each canister was a time capsule waiting to be opened, except the one he actually wanted seemed to have time-travelled elsewhere. The golden path was nowhere to be found. He was in the right place because every other Capra was present, from Hemo the Magnificent to Long Pants. Milo searched the nearby shelves. Nope. Everyone else was here: Cameron, Campion, Carpenter and Chaplin. But no golden path. He walked back to Felix. "It's missing." Felix sighed, took a swig of whiskey. How was that even possible? The laws of puppet physics apparently included liquid consumption. "All right, I'll look around for it." "Do you think it'll take long?" Felix glared at him. "I gotta search the whole archive. What do you think, buddy?" "That I should choose another movie." "That's right, choose another movie." He gestured to the shelves, whiskey sloshing. "It's a good thing I live here." "You live here?" Milo asked. Felix looked at him as though he'd grown a second head. "Where else do you think foxes live in Hollywood?" Milo shrugged. Because he really didn't know. And foxes? "There are more of you." "How rude," Felix said. "Are there more than one of you?" "Me?" Milo asked. Felix nodded. "No, I'm the only one. For cinema's sake, you better be." Then Felix disappeared behind his desk. Milo slunk away, back to the Capra shelf and pulled It's a Wonderful Life. After all, it was his comfort film. Maybe he could glean some inspiration from it as well. The metal canister felt cool against his skin. Milo followed Felix's earlier directions, making his way down the hallway past the Smell-O-Vision exhibit, and just before the Films That Almost Started World War III section, making a mental note to explore that later. Then he stopped in front of a door marked Viewing Room A. Milo opened the viewing room door, half expecting to find a dusty, cobweb-covered space with a bedsheet on the wall for a screen. Instead, he entered what could only be described as a miniature version of an opulent movie palace from Hollywood's golden age, when theatres were temples and ushers wore uniforms that filled military generals with envy. Plush red velvet seats lined the little room, gold-leafed mouldings adorned the walls. A crystal chandelier dangled from the ceiling, casting a summery glow. At the back of the room stood a gleaming projector that looked like a prop from the Death Star, if Vader even watched films, besides the ones that originated in R2-D2. Milo ran his hand along a velvet seat, marvelling at the opulence. It was hard to believe it existed here, beneath parking lot J17. Even the air felt different, charged with the potential of celluloid magic. He walked over to the projector, opened the canister, and carefully threaded the film through its intricate system of lenses and gears. When he finished, Milo hit the switch. The lights went out automatically, and Felix found his seat. A trill of excitement shivered down his spine. Yes, he'd seen It's a Wonderful Life 100 times, but never like this, a private viewing in a theatre that felt like it was out of time. "I owe everything to George Bailey. Help him, dear Father. Joseph, Jesus and Mary. Help my friend, Mr. Bailey. Help my son, George, tonight." Milo knew all the words. Didn't even need the script. Script? He bolted to his feet. The archive wasn't just celluloid, digital and analog. It had posters, props and, he sniffed, popcorn apparently, because the distinct odour of hot butter was tickling his senses. He ran out of the viewing room and back to Felix. "Felix!" The fox appeared, this time with a bucket of freshly popped kernels, so he hadn't been imagining the smell. "Are you really friends with Ava?" "Of course," Milo said. "Why?" "You're a little more high maintenance." Milo ignored him. It was easier to do when you realised you were talking to a puppet. "Scripts? Where do I find them?" Felix pointed. "That door. Script room." Milo flushed. "Thanks." And off he popped, heading to the aforementioned door, entering to discovering screenwriting heaven. Scripts lined every wall. Gold Diggers, Golden Eye, Goldfinger, but no golden path. Felix wouldn't have filed it under the, would he? Milo headed for the teas. Oh, he would. There were thousands of them. But there, tucked between the Golden Child and the Golden Stallion, was the Golden Path. Milo pulled it out. There on the front it read, "The Golden Path, Frank Capra." He was surprised to find that while the paper was thin, not well worn, it almost appeared as though the script hadn't ever been read. There was a threadbare chair over in the far corner, so Milo walked over and began to read. And as he did, he felt a growing sense of déjà vu. The characters were different, as was the setting, but the underlying structure and themes, the very soul of Capra's film, all felt eerily familiar. Too familiar. The parallels weren't just similar. They were mirror images reflected across decades, like someone had Xeroxed his soul and sent it backwards through time. Because the Golden Path was the invisible zoo. When he finished reading, Milo flipped back to the beginning and started again. But he had the same reaction. The similarities were undeniable. Was it possible he had seen the film as a kid and just not remembered? He pulled up IMDb on his phone. Checked Capra. The Golden Path wasn't listed. He checked Wikipedia. Same. No mention of it. Not even a sniff of any long-lost film. Milo pulled out a small notebook. Every writer carries one and a pen, and scribbled furiously, jotting down observations, connections, and ideas. By the time he'd read the script for a fifth time, his notes had grown ever more detailed. His mind buzzed with possibilities. He had come to the archive looking for inspiration, but Milo had found so much more. Validation, a roadmap, or as Vader would say, a destiny. Or he might not say that at all, and simply run him through with a lightsaber. To hell with the invisible zoo, Milo was going to film The Golden Path, make it a love letter to Capra and to the power of cinema itself. The whole world deserved to have an opportunity to see Capra's film. Why the heck was it collecting dust in Felix's archive? Milo gathered his notes and the script, practically bouncing on his way back to the puppet's desk. Excitement pumped in his blood, like he was fresh out of film school again. But Felix was gone. A middle-aged man with thinning hair and thick-rimmed glasses sat behind the desk, engrossed in a script. "Excuse me," Milo said. "Are you the puppeteer?" The man looked at Milo, clearly irritated. "What? Do you operate Felix?" "I'm sorry, who?" "Felix. You know, the puppet. Red fox, bit of an attitude, seems to run this place." The man's expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Sir, I've been working here for over 20 years, and I can assure you there is no puppet named Felix. Are you feeling all right? Sometimes the dust down here can play tricks on the mind." Milo opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. Was this a prank? He glanced at the desk. The nameplate was missing as well. He changed the subject. "I'd like to borrow this script." No. The man shook his head, seemingly relieved to be back on familiar ground. "Nothing can ever leave the archive. You'll have to put it back." Milo frowned. "Can I copy it?" The man didn't even have to answer. Of course he would say no. Milo sighed, walked back to the script room, then realised he hadn't seen any cameras or security guards, only a man and a fox. He stuffed the script down his shirt, zipped up his jacket. Then he made his way back through the archive, already sweating by the time he reached the desk. "Good night." The man grunted without looking up. Milo walked on, glimpsed something red and fuzzy out of the corner of his eye, just before reaching the hallway. He whipped around, but if Felix had been there, the puppet was lost to the shadows. Milo made his way back down the hallway and back to the stairs, half expecting to be tackled by some previously unseen security guard. Or to hear an alarm go off, a spotlight land on him accusingly, as though he were attempting to break out of prison. Every step felt like the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, minus the boulder, plus the crushing weight of stolen genius pressed against his chest. But nothing. And the stairs back up were accomplished in seconds, which seemed odd, given it had taken a few minutes to go down. He exited, startled to find that night had fallen. The parking lot was nearly empty, save for a few cars that probably belonged to security. How long had he been down there? Milo checked his watch. It was well past midnight. He had spent the entire day lost in the archive, and yet he felt more awake and alive than he had in years. He practically ran back to the storage closet, his mind racing with ideas for how to merge the golden path with the invisible zoo. Milo entered his office, flicked on the lights and settled into his chair. He made a copy of Capra's script, then started writing notes. He was still hard at work when the first rays of dawn crept through the window, but Milo finally set his pen down. This was it, the movie that would change everything. A shadow passed by. Milo looked up, catching a glimpse of a figure in a fedora and trench coat. Was that the same figure he saw before? He got up and walked to the door, peering out, but no one was there. He yawned. Must be his imagination. He returned to his desk, staring down at the script, and smiled. The golden path. It was perfect.